mental well-being, and, well, yoga.
Yeah.
You sent over some great stuff, and our mission today really is to unpack how this ancient practice goes beyond just, the physical side to genuinely impact your mind.
That's exactly right. And what's so interesting, I think, is how yoga isn't just one thing. It's a whole system, isn't it? You've got the physical postures, the asanas,
Hmm.
the breathing techniques, pranayama, meditation, even ethical principles. It all works together as this like comprehensive toolkit for mental health.
Okay, so definitely not just about like touching your toes or getting flexible. How do all those different parts, how do they actually combine to help our mental state?
We'll think of it like this. Each piece has its own job, but together they create this kind of ripple effect.
Yeah.
So the postures, they can release physical tension,
Yeah.
which often mirrors emotional stress we hold. Then the breathing techniques, they directly tap into your nervous system, shifting you from, fight or flight to calm. Meditation helps quiet the mind chatter,
Right?
and the ethics sort of provide a framework for living more peacefully.
Hmm.
And what the studies show pretty consistently is that putting these together regularly leads to, real benefits. Less stress, better mood, even sharper thinking.
Okay, let's focus on something I think, well, most of us deal with daily. Just feeling overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. How does yoga practically help with that, like in the moment?
Yeah, this is where you see yoga's direct impact on the nervous system. It actively stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. That's
Yeah.
basically your body's rest and digest system, the natural brake pedal for stress.
Oh, okay.
And deep breathing is key here. Things like diaphragmatic breathing, feeling your belly rise and fall, or alternate nostril breathing. These aren't just mental tricks. They actually slow your heart rate, lower blood
And
pressure.
physically change things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Physiologically, it tells your brain, hey, it's safe now, you can relax. And that dials down the anxiety. It's like actively pressing pause on that stress response.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. And mindfulness, that word comes up constantly with yoga. How does that piece fit into relieving stress and anxiety?
It's absolutely core.
Yeah.
Yoga really encourages you to bring your full attention right here, right now, to your body, to your breath.
Mhm.
And this focus helps break that cycle of, you know, worrying about yesterday or stressing about tomorrow. You're training your brain, essentially, to just be present.
Right.
And when you practice that consistently, you build up this mental resilience. You become less reactive to everyday annoyances, better able to handle stuff without feeling totally swamped. It's like building an internal shock absorber.
Yeah, yeah, an internal buffer. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, shifting gears a bit to something more significant, depression. Can yoga actually offer like meaningful support for people dealing with depression?
Yes, and the evidence for this is definitely growing. Yoga is increasingly seen as a really valuable supportive therapy for managing depressive symptoms.
Yeah.
We already know physical movement releases endorphins, right?
Hmm.
Mood boosters.
Sure.
But yoga is more than just exercise. It's that combination movement, mindful focus, meditation that seems to help regulate the nervous system, which can often be kind of out of whack in depression.
Okay.
And it can be super helpful for reducing rumination too, that endless loop of negative thoughts.
Oh, that's huge.
It is. And interestingly, some specific styles like Kundalini and maybe Hatha Yoga have shown particular promise in studies for easing depressive symptoms when practiced regularly.
That's really encouraging that it can be a real tangible support. You mentioned different styles. If someone's thinking about yoga specifically for mental well-being, are there certain styles that might be, better suited?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Generally, if mental well-being is the main goal, the gentler, more introspective styles often hit the mark best. Hatha Yoga, for instance, it emphasizes slower movements, breath awareness. It's a great starting point, especially if you're new or dealing with anxiety or depression.
Okay, gentle sounds good.
Yeah. Then there's restorative yoga. This one uses lots of props, bolsters, blankets to totally support your body in passive poses. It's all about deep relaxation, letting go of stress, almost like a guided nap, but you're awake.
Huh, sounds lovely.
It really is. And yin yoga is another one. It targets deeper connective tissues with long passive holds. It really encourages you to go inward, be mindful. Even the more flowy styles like vinyasa, where you link breath to movement, can be meditative. But those gentler ones are often a bit more accessible when you're really focusing on the mental health side.
So lots of options depending on what you need. What about sleep? That's another big one tied to stress and anxiety, isn't it? Can yoga help improve sleep quality?
Oh, definitely. Yoga can have a really noticeable impact on sleep because, like you said, stress and anxiety are huge culprits behind sleep problems, right?
Hmm.
So yoga's calming, restorative effects directly tackle those root causes. Practices like yoga nidra, which is a kind of guided meditation that leads you into this super deep relaxation state, almost like sleep itself, are particularly effective.
Yoga Nidra. Okay.
Yeah. And just setting up a simple evening routine, maybe some gentle stretches, slow breathing,
Hmm.
it really helps signal to your body, okay, time to wind down now. Yeah. And the research backs this up too. Studies show reduced insomnia symptoms in people who practice yoga regularly.
It's just amazing how tied together the physical and mental are, and how yoga seems to bridge that gap. Now, you mentioned it's a complementary therapy, not a replacement for, say, medical treatment. Can you expand on how it works alongside other treatments?
Yes, that's a really crucial point. Yoga can be a fantastic adjunct, a powerful partner to conventional treatments like psychotherapy or medication. Think of it as helping regulate emotional responses, helping lower those physiological stress markers like cortisol.
Right, the stress hormone.
Exactly. And it really enhances your awareness of what's going on in your own body, your own emotions. So for people managing things like generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, major depression, yoga offers this valuable non-drug tool for managing symptoms. More and more mental health pros are recognizing this and recommending it as part of a bigger treatment picture.
So, thinking bigger picture then, beyond just easing stress or helping with specific conditions, what are some of the broader psychological wins someone might get from regular yoga practice?
Oh, the psychological benefits can be quite wide-ranging. We often see just an enhanced sense of general well-being and a better ability to manage emotions day to day.
Mm,
People often report feeling more self-aware, more introspective. Concentration tends to improve. Mental clarity sharpens up. Feelings of anxiety, depression can become less intense over time.
that sounds great.
Yeah. And things like improved self-esteem, a more positive body image.
Hmm.
Those often come up too. For some, there's also a spiritual dimension, a sense of connection. Really, what consistent practice does is encourage this healthier mental space by getting you to slow down, connect inward, and build more positive mental habits.
That sounds incredibly positive. And it's not just about feelings, is it? You mentioned there's even evidence it impacts our actual brain, like physically.
That's right, yeah. It's fascinating stuff. Yoga seems to positively influence brain function, partly through neuroplasticity,
Hmm.
the brain's ability to rewire itself.
Right.
Studies have actually shown increases in gray matter in brain areas linked to things like attention, memory, emotional regulation in people who practice yoga regularly. And the meditation and breathing parts, they're thought to boost focus by stimulating the prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain doing the heavy lifting for higher level thinking. Plus, yoga is linked to reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, which are tied to cognitive decline. So yeah, it translates to potentially better memory, quicker thinking, more emotional stability. It's not just making you feel better, it might actually be changing your brain for the better.
That's pretty incredible, those tangible brain changes. And you mentioned studies earlier. Is the scientific backing for these mental health benefits quite solid now?
Yes, it really is. There's a growing and I'd say quite compelling body of research validating yoga's positive effects.
Mm.
Like we touched on, studies in good journals, psychological medicine, frontiers in psychiatry, they've shown yoga can significantly reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, PTSD. And the neuroimaging studies are actually showing us those changes in brain structure and function. Plus, we see consistent findings on lower cortisol levels, that's stress hormone again, and increases in mood-regulating neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin, better sleep quality too. It all points towards enhanced mental well-being.
So, for someone listening, maybe feeling inspired to try this out, what's your advice for getting started? How do you actually begin to weave yoga into your life for mental health?
Yeah, great question. The best way for beginners is usually to start gently and focus on consistency. You don't need to do hours right away. Even just say 15 to 30 minutes a day of some basic postures and breathing can make a difference.
Okay, manageable chunks.
Exactly. And there are tons of resources now online. Videos, apps, local studios often have classes specifically for well-being or stress relief. Maybe try a morning practice to set a calm tone for the day, or an evening one to unwind before bed. Find what fits your schedule. The absolute key is consistency. Little and often tends to work better than one massive session once in a blue moon. And always, always listen to your body. Don't push into pain. It's not a competition.
That's really practical advice. You also mentioned mindfulness techniques within yoga. Could you maybe highlight a couple of those that are especially good for mental well-being?
Sure. Breath awareness pranayama is just fundamental.
Yeah.
Simply focusing on the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. It anchors you in the present like nothing else.
Hmm.
Body scans are great too. You systematically bring your attention to different parts of your body, just noticing sensations without judging them.
Okay.
Then there's formal meditation, maybe focusing on the breath or a mantra, or cultivating feelings like loving kindness, and mindful movement itself, doing the poses with full attention on how it feels, your alignment, the breath. It pulls you out of your head and into your body. All these techniques train your brain to stay present, which boosts emotional stability.
It sounds like having those concrete tools is really key for managing that internal chatter. What about chronic stress? That feels like such a modern epidemic. How does yoga help with that ongoing long-term stress?
Yeah, yoga is a really powerful tool against chronic stress because chronic stress, as you know, keeps that fight or flight system constantly humming in the background,
Right.
which leads to all sorts of health issues, including mood problems.
Right.
Yoga actively pushes back against that. It promotes the relaxation response, slows the heart rate, lowers cortisol, calms the mind. It's the antidote. And over time, practicing regularly builds that resilience we talked about. You become better equipped to handle stressors without getting completely frazzled. So making yoga a regular thing isn't just about feeling better right now. It's really an investment in your long-term emotional and physical health.
Are there maybe a few specific yoga poses known for being particularly good for mental health? Maybe some simple ones people could try?
Oh, absolutely. Several come to mind. Child's pose, balasana, is wonderful. It's very grounding, releases tension in the back and shoulders, just feels inherently calming.
Okay, I know that one.
Yeah, it's lovely. Legs up the wall pose, Viparita Karani sounds simple, but it's incredibly soothing for anxiety, helps circulation too. Just lie on your back with your legs resting up a wall.
Oh, that sounds relaxing.
It really is.
Yeah?
Corpse pose, savasana, usually done at the end of practice. It's about deep rest, but also mindfulness, just being present with your body without doing anything. Bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana, can be good too. It gently opens the chest, which can feel tight with anxiety or depression, and it can be quite uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And cat-cow pose, that gentle flow between arching and rounding the spine, is great for relieving stress and bringing some calm movement.
Mm.
Even just doing these few regularly can really help soothe the nervous system.
Those sound like really accessible starting points. Thinking more deeply now, how does the whole practice of yoga shape our emotional well-being on maybe a more fundamental level?
Well, on that deeper level, yoga really fosters self-reflection, acceptance, and self-compassion, which is huge.
Yeah.
The practice encourages you to notice thoughts and feelings as they come up, but without judging them, just noticing.
Yeah.
That awareness is the first step towards better emotional regulation.
Right, not getting swept away.
Exactly. To focus on breath control, on mindfulness, it helps dial down that immediate emotional reactivity. You learn to pause, to respond rather than react. It creates this safe space internally to process emotions healthily instead of, stuffing them down or lashing out.
That idea of non-judgmental awareness feels so central to emotional health. Now, what about people who've experienced significant trauma? Is yoga something that can help there, and are there special things to consider?
Yes, definitely.
Mm.
But with an important caveat. There's something called trauma-sensitive yoga, or TSY. It's a specific approach designed very carefully for individuals who've experienced trauma, maybe dealing with PTSD.
Excellent.
Very much so. TSY is different from a standard yoga class. It intentionally avoids things that might be triggering certain language, hands-on adjustments. The focus is entirely on choice, safety, feeling empowered in your own body.
That sounds crucial.
It is. The whole point is to help people safely reconnect with their bodies, maybe after feeling disconnected due to trauma. And research shows TSY can significantly reduce PTSD symptoms, things like hypervigilance, anxiety, while improving emotional regulation. But it's vital, absolutely vital, to find an instructor specifically trained and qualified in TSY.
That's such an important distinction to make. Okay, thinking about making this a regular part of life. For those mental health benefits, how often should someone realistically aim to practice?
Well, look, any yoga is better than no yoga. But to really feel those noticeable, sustained mental health improvements, aiming for maybe 3 to 5.
Okay.
And remember what we said about consistency often?
Yeah.
Shorter, regular sessions, maybe 20, 30 minutes, are more effective long-term than one massive intense session every 2 weeks.
Right, building the habit.
Exactly. And make sure those sessions include a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Some movement, some breath work, some relaxation or mindfulness. Think of it less like a workout you have to tick off and more like a lifelong journey of tuning in. Consistency over intensity usually wins out.
That makes total sense. And one last area, community. We often hear about the vibe in yoga classes. Does that social connection play a role in mental health too?
Oh, a huge role,
Yeah.
potentially. That sense of community you can find in a yoga class can be incredibly valuable. Practicing in a group provides social connection, which we know combats isolation and builds belonging.
Hmm.
Just sharing that safe, mindful space with others who value similar things can really amplify the psychological benefits. Plus, having that group can provide encouragement, keep you accountable, make it feel less like something you have to do and more like something you get to do together.
That shared energy can be really powerful. And just quickly, what about kids and teenagers? Can they benefit from yoga for their mental well-being too?
Oh, absolutely. Yoga can be fantastic for younger people. They deal with so much pressure these days, don't they?
They really do.
Yoga can help them improve focus, reduce anxiety around school or social stuff, and learn emotional regulation skills early on. Obviously, you adapt it. Kids yoga often uses stories, games, music to make it fun, but teaching them these mindfulness and relaxation tools young, that can give them healthy coping strategies for life.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here, it's really clear, isn't it? Yoga offers this incredibly holistic and evidence-based way to boost your mental health. It's nurturing the mind, the body, the spirit,
Yeah.
all interconnected.
Exactly. Through that mindful movement, the conscious breath, just cultivating presence, and whether you're looking for something primary for well-being or, a supportive practice alongside other things, it seems yoga offers this really accessible and effective route for navigating stress, anxiety, depression, even trauma when approached correctly.
Yeah, and that accessibility is key, I think. Like we said, you don't need fancy gear to start. Just incorporating a few minutes, even just a few minutes of mindful movement and breath into your day can genuinely start to shift things.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you go about the rest of your day, just consider how might bringing in even a tiny bit of mindful movement, a moment
to
of
the deep
focused
dive.
breath.
Start
Today,
to
we're getting
gently
into something a lot of
reshape
you
your- I've been
own
asking
inner
about.
landscape. It's
This
really an
real
really
invitation,
powerful
isn't it, to
connection
explore that
between
amazing connection
mental
between
health,
your body and your mind.
mental